Om Jnanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ulmanitam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Kinkaroti Vachalam Pangam Langay Girim Jyot Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurun Dinatarinam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So welcome everybody to the second installment of this course entitled Light on the Bhagavat, or Light of the Bhagavat, but it's more like shining a light on the Bhagavat. To this week, the title is On the Principle of Oneness and Difference, or Bhed Abhed. So initially, we had the idea of talking about different episodes from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the different stories. But we thought it more useful, really, as practitioners, to look at different principles and concepts that come from the Bhagavat, which are very helpful and valuable for us in practicing life. So this principle of oneness and difference is very central to all Vaishnava teachings, and it runs through every aspect of the theology. And so it would be good for us to have some grasp of the idea of what it means. Obviously, something that's one with something else and different from it at the same time is not easy to grasp. I mean, it's an apparent contradiction, or we'd rather call it a paradox. But still, and the beginning is with the Lord himself and his potency. As we would say, Shaktiman, the possessor of potency, and the Shakti, the potency. So the Lord himself is the original potent, and everything else, everyone else, and everything else in existence is part of his Shakti or potency. And the potency, the potent, or the power and the powerful are simultaneously and rather inconceivably one and different. So this is, or we can say, sometimes it's described as distinct and non-distinct. But whichever way you put it, there's an aspect of oneness and an aspect of difference. And as I say, this runs through every aspect of the teachings. Some of these aspects we'll be covering tonight, not all of them, of course. But first of all, the most important one, probably, for us to know about is about the relationship between the Jiva soul and the Lord, or the Jiva soul and the Supreme Soul, or Jivatma, Paramatma. So, of course, we have the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 20, and this is 108 to 109. It's actually two verses, but the first part is the one that's usually quoted. Jivera Swarup Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatashta Shakti, Bhed Abhed Prakash. And so I think you have that on your sheet or translation. So to give a fully rounded idea of this verse, I'm just going to read from this book, Revealed Truth, from chapter 6, which is called The Evolution of Consciousness. Incidentally, this book is highly valuable. I would recommend it to everyone. Sripad Tyagi Maharaj, his, let's say, legacy to our mission, I would say, specifically in this book, because basically it's covering what they call the Dasa Mula, or the 10 essential principles of Krishna consciousness. Number one, there is the Lord. Number two, the Lord has potencies. Number three, one of his potencies is the Jiva soul, and so on. So, and he's collected the talks of Srila Gurudev and compiled it in order of these subjects. In chapter 6, so this is the verse which Maharaj is telling in full. Jivera Svarup Hoy, Krishnara Nityadas, Krishnara Tatashta Shakti, Bhed Abhed Prakash, Sujangsa Kiran, Jaiche Ogni Jvala Choi, Swabhavika Krishnara Tin Prakar Shakti Hoy. And Maharaj says, Krishna is like a Chit Surya, a great sun made of spiritual energy, and the Jiva souls are like rays of that spiritual sun. Here in the verse, Suryangsa Kiran. Kiran means a ray, and Angsa, like part of the sun coming out in the form of rays. And the sun's rays are both different and non-different from the sun. Krishna and the Jiva souls are simultaneously different and non-different. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Tad binangshang chojivan. The Jiva souls are distinct, finite parts of the infinite Lord. In this way, the Jiva souls belong to the Lord. They come from the Lord's energy, his marginal potency, Tatashta Shakti. The Jiva souls naturally have a subservient relationship with the Lord. That is, all Jiva souls are eternal servitors of their Lord, Sri Krishna. That is their natural identity. This is Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya Dev's primary teaching. The service of Krishna is the true dharma of every Jiva soul. So that should be fairly clear. So that's one of the Lord's potencies, the Tatashta Shakti. There's also the Parashakti, is higher spiritual potency, and the Maya Shakti. And there's another verse from that. Vishnu Shakti Paraprokta Chetagya Tatapara Avidya Karma Sangyanya Tritiya Shaktir Ishite. The Lord Krishna's power has three divisions. His Parashakti, or internal spiritual energy, his Chetragya Shakti, marginal spiritual energy, which manifests the individual Jiva souls, and his Apara Shakti, material energy. So it's sometimes called internal, marginal, and external. These three main potencies of Krishna, yes, are sometimes known by other names, such as Antaranga Shakti, internal, Tatashta Shakti, and Bahiranga Shakti. All of these energies are activated by Krishna's will for his play and satisfaction. The divine couple's transcendental play with their paraphernalia, that is, all of Krishna Lila, is part of the Chit Shakti, spiritual potency. We will be going into this later on in the talk, more specifically. The Jiva souls come out from the Tatashta Shakti for Krishna's play and satisfaction, as well as the creation of the material world. The material environment and the bewilderment of the conditioned souls come from the Maya Shakti, material energy, which is like the Lord's shadow potency, a reflection of his spiritual energy. Sometimes it's called Chaya Shakti, the shadow potency. So the Jiva souls, this is the main point we want to look at, discover, are the Lord's marginal potency, Tatashta Shakti. And Tata means on the line of demarcation, like a shore. Like when we had just sung the Gora Arti, we say Janavi Tata Vane, so just on the bank of the Ganga. Janavi Tata, on the Tata. Sometimes it's covered by the water, sometimes it's not covered by the water. The margin between the spiritual and material energy, and can adapt to either environment. Okay, so this the whole question of the adaptation of the Jiva soul to the Para Shakti or the Apara Shakti, up or down. This is really another question for another course or talk. But so in any case, there's a relation of oneness and difference between the Lord and his energies. So that's so in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna touches on this. We have chapter 9, verses 4 and 5, which are marked here. These are very often quoted by Srila Sridhar Maharaj, usually paraphrasing in his own words. Nachamatstani bhutani pashyame jogam aishvaram. Bhutabrin nachabhutosto mamatma bhuta bhavana. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. For the previous verse, Krishna had said, by me, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So that's inconceivable already. So that's verse 4, chapter 9. And the verse 5, and yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. As Srila Guru Maharaj would say, everything is in me, nothing is in me. Although I'm the maintainer of all living entities, although I'm everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. So that's, we talk about the immanent aspects of the Lord. This is Paramatma, we'll be talking about that later. The three aspects of the Lord, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Probably you know about the four Vaishnava Sampradayas, which each of them has a slightly different expression of this oneness and difference. You could say some are slightly more veering to the side of the oneness and some are slightly more to the difference. But they all agree that, yes, they all agree that there is not an absolute oneness, Keval Advaitavad, as proposed by the Mayavadi school, that there's no distinction between the Jiva soul and the Lord, or actually their premise is there is no such thing as an individual Jiva soul. There is only Brahman. And the individuality or experience of individuality is an illusion. That's, I haven't got time to go into that, but just basically to say, if you even posit that idea itself, then you're saying, well, here is a reality and here is an illusion. That's already two. So anyway, there's many arguments which I haven't got time, but Mahaprabhu did give very strictly said to his devotees, don't mix with the Mayavadis, because that philosophy is very insidious and it will destroy it can uproot your bhakti lata, your beings. It's very dangerous. But we're talking about the real Mayavadi scholars here, not New Agey type people who just say everything is one and don't really know, have any philosophy behind it. But I had an experience with that myself one time in Bournemouth. I was at I say a friend's house, more like an acquaintance, but he had some connection with the Theosophical Society in London, and he had, studied or read some of the Upanishads and so on. And I was browsing through his bookcase in his house, went over there for tea or something, and I was just browsing, and I took one book out, Viveka Chudamani. It's a famous book by Sripad Shankaracharya. But this is a very old, kind of original in Sanskrit and English version from maybe 1940s or 50s. I would say probably an fairly authentic translation. And I was just glancing over the words, not really even consciously taking them in. But suddenly I started to have this terrible feeling inside me. And the only way I can describe it was like, a mirror is giving it like a reflection, proper reflection, but if the mirror is suddenly shattered, it was like that. I started to feel sick, and I ran out of his house, like my head was on fire. And I ran back to my flat, it was around the corner, and I grabbed Chaitanya Charitamrita from the shelf and opened it to the part Mahaprabhu preaching to the, Mayavadi sannyasis, Prakashananda, and so on. And slowly, just by reading it, the mirror came back into one whole. So I experienced that. It's very, so he said, Asat Sangha Chag, A Vaishnav Achar. The Vaishnavas who rejects Asat Sangha, and that is two ways, the Vishayi, the very materialistic people, and also the Mayavadis. But of the two, Mayavadi is worse. Because materialistic person, they can take a turn and become a devotee more easily. It's like they're engaging their senses in sense gratification. It's all they know, right? Seeing themselves as the center and everything, or extended self, family, society, nation, etc. And if they have some sukriti or some blessings from Krishna or devotee of Krishna, they can change and they can then engage all of that in the service of the Lord. In other words, they would just be changing their target from self to the Lord. That can happen, as in many cases we've seen. The Mayavadis, on the other hand, very difficult, because they think they've already attained the highest position. Someone who has a so-called PhD, and you try to teach them or educate them and say, no, you can't tell me anything. I know everything. And so that is a very difficult position and to be avoided. So here we have the four Vaishnava Sampradayas, the Lakshmi Sampradaya and Sripad Ramanujacharya. Is this appearance day today? Or yes, around now. No, that was a little before. Yeah, my friend, he sent me a text, and it was, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe. So, yeah, he's these are four Sampradayas. Their origins, Ramanuja is Lakshmi Narayan, so he's representative of them. And his teaching is called Vaishishtadvaita Vad, means there is variety in oneness. The absolute truth is one, but with variety simultaneously existing, spiritual variety within it. Vaishishtadvaita Vad. And then you have Nimbakacharya, well, Sri Vishnu Swami, it's called the Rudra Sampradaya or Shiva Sampradaya. He's the main acharya in that line. And his philosophy is called Shuddh Advaita Vad, which literally means pure non-dual, pure oneness. Again, it's not the oneness of Shankaracharya, but coming from Lord Shiva, as you know, Lord Shiva is meditating his oneness, with the Lord. But we'll talk about that later, different aspects of Shiva. Then Nimbakacharya is coming from the four Kumara saints, the four child saints. And his philosophy is called, it's actually Dvaita Advaita. It's very close to Mahaprabhu's. Dvaita Advaita, oneness and difference. But Mahaprabhu added the word Achincha. Achincha Bhed Abhed, or Achincha Dvaita Advaita. Which means, Srila Guru Maharaj explained, that means that the actual demarcation between the Jiva soul and the Lord, that also may not be fixed. That's another inconceivable idea on top of it. But generally his philosophy would be, of the four, would be closest to Mahaprabhu's. In fact, in the Nimbaka line, they do worship Radha Krishna in Vrindavan, Krishna's pastimes, but with some not so much in the Parakiya line. Okay. Parakiya, understand? Yeah. So Madhvacharya then, interestingly, Madhvacharya, our line is called the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, beginning with Lord Brahma, coming through Madhvacharya to Gauda, means Mahaprabhu. So by his divine wish, Mahaprabhu accepted initiation in the Madhvacharya line from Ishwar Puri, and Madhavendra Puri was his his Param Guru. There's many pastimes of Mahaprabhu with him. So interestingly, Madhvacharya, you notice he's going like this with two fingers here. But this is Atma and Paramatma, distinct. He's very strong on that point there. Yes. So that's maybe one of the reasons why Mahaprabhu accepted initiation in that line, to be very clear on the distinction of Jiva and the Lord. So those are the four. That's you can read about that in Sri Guru and His Grace, and also the book called Divine Aspiration, both by Sridhar Maharaj. So Mahaprabhu's teaching is supposed to synthesize all of these ideas in his Achintya Veda Veda Tattva teaching. So apart from the oneness and difference of the Jiva soul and the Lord, as we said, there are many aspects to this which we can look at, but mainly four would concern us mostly. One is, of course, Nam Tattva. The name is Krishna himself, but the name Krishna and Krishna are non-different, but different and non-different, let's say. And the Guru Tattva and Dham Tattva, the Dham, the holy Dham, places of Krishna's pastimes, or the Lord's pastimes, and Shiva Tattva. So obviously very important for us is about Nam Tattva. And there are books and books you can study and read about this, how the name of Krishna and Krishna are non-different. Harinam Chintamani is very famous. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, speaking to the mouth of Haridas Thakur about the holy name. Haridas Thakur was a Namacharya, of course. But essentially, the Lord and His name are non-different, and that is spiritual conception. As in the material world, the name and the object are different, of course. So myself and my name, or if I say desk and this physical object made of wood is different. The name represents the object, but it's not the same as. If I say apple, 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 I can say it 1,000,000 times, but that won't quench my thirst, like as it would be eating an apple, right? So there's a difference. Duality. It's the world of duality. In the spiritual world, the name and the form are non-different. So that's why when the soul attains a Sarup Siddhi and Vastu Siddhi, then the name and the form of the person is non-different. So the person is their service, and the service is the person. It's not like I'm over here and I'm doing some service, which has been given to me, and it's a separate thing. Yes. So the idea then that the soul has attained its eternal serving form, its eternal form in relation to Krishna, and the soul's body, spiritual body, like Krishna's, is a non-dual entity. Just as same with Krishna, there's no inside, outside, there's no distinction. His intelligence, his mind, his body, all is one, Advaya Gyan, one undifferentiated spiritual substance and existence. Similarly with the souls who are serving Krishna there. So, as I said in a previous talk, actually we are these bodies. Not these bodies, of course, but we are the body. Because spiritually, the body and the soul, there's no distinction. It's one entity. Unfortunately, in the material world, which is the world of duality, we're not the body. We're incarnated inside a material body, two sheaths, subtle and gross. So the name of Krishna and Krishna are Binatva Nama Namana. The Nam and the namana, the name and the possessor of the name are non-different. So this verse, which I've given you, have this nama chintamani Krishnas, Chaitanya rasa vigraha, purna shuddha nitya mukta, abhinatma nama namina. A very beautiful verse. It's actually from the Padma Purana, which is where you find the 10 offences against the holy name to be avoided, but quoted by Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita, 17th chapter of Majja Lila. And the translation goes like this. It can be translated in different ways, but this is like the full version. The holy name of Krishna is transcendently blissful. It bestows all spiritual benedictions, for it is Krishna himself, the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's name is complete, and it is the form of all transcendental mellows. Nama Chintamani Krishnas. Yeah, like a Chintamani stone gives everything, bestows anything, fulfills all your desires, right? Turns everything to gold. So the holy name, like that. Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. Here, Chaitanya means Chaitan, consciousness. Rasa Vigraha. It is the form of rasa, the embodiment of rasa. Like Krishna's Akila Rasa Mritamurti. All sweet tastes, rasas, combined together is Krishna. That's why the beginning of Search for Sri Krishna book, just in the very forward there, then Srila Guru Maharaj says, and it's actually stunning, really. Anybody who would open the book says, everybody is searching for rasa, right, for taste. So if Krishna is Akila Rasa Mritamurti, the combined form of all rasas, therefore everybody is searching for Krishna. It's perfect logic, But as George Harrison said in his introduction to Krishna book, some don't realize that they are, but they are. Yeah. So it is the form of all transcendental mellows. It's not a material name under any condition and is no less powerful than Krishna himself. Since Krishna's name is not contaminated by the material qualities, there's no question of it being involved with Maya. So, Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta in the verse. Purna means complete. Shuddha is completely pure, cannot be touched by any material elements. And it's always Nitya Mukta, always liberated and spiritual. It's never conditioned by the laws of nature. Why? Last line, Abhinatma Nama Namina, because the name and the possessor of the name are one and the same. In fact, we might say, as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, the name Krishna, Hare Krishna, Nam, is more powerful in the sense, go look at Prema Dham, Harinam Sankirtan, is descended down from the spiritual world to here. Just imagine for us, But we're not maybe seeing Krishna's form, and so on, but in the form of the name, he's coming to us. And Srila Gurudev said, sometimes I'm thinking about it, I'm meditating on that. That's how extraordinary that is. That the highest thing in the spiritual world is coming to this world, especially in Kali Yuga, as the Kali Yuga Dharma, Nama Sankirtan. The whole question, the whole problem, of course, is how to see that, how to realize that, how to feel that, how to experience that, and so on. And of course, ultimately, that's through this service mood of chanting. Chanting should be in a service mood. It's a form of service. It's not chanting like a yogic meditation chanting. It may take that form, it may show itself as that. Somebody sitting in a cave, Hare Krishna, but actually it's service to Krishna. Service to the name is service to Krishna. And that's why our acharyas have said, some minimum daily chanting, personal chanting on the japa beads, 4 rounds or so, shouldn't be neglected. And we'll be talking about more of that in the other talk about prayer, meditation, and so on. So then I'm reminded of Ajamil, actually, comes in this connection, The story of Ajamil in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Oh, have you got the other first picture with the prostitute? No, it was where he was with the prostitute. It's in there somewhere. There, yeah. So what happened, Ajamil there, he fell down because he came in contact with this very lusty and sensual-like situation, seeing a Shudra and a prostitute embracing, and he was a very qualified Brahmana. And there's actually a backstory to that in his previous life, he had been a mendicant in the Himalayas, and he drank some water, very, very cold, icy water from the glacier, and it was too cold, and his system was shocked, and he fainted. And just that time, there came there a gentleman with his daughter, who was 16 years of age, and his friend, who was a kavi, a doctor. And so the doctor prescribed that if you lie down with this girl, you like cuddle this girl, the heat of her body will will revive you. So he did. They made him do that. But when he came to his senses and realized what was happening, as a mendicant, he was like shocked, and he said, "Oh," and he said, "I curse you to become a prostitute." But she was also qualified and pious, and she wasn't stupid. And she said, "And I also then curse you that in that next life, you will have to come into my connection in this way." So in this way, he fell down from his Brahminical principles and started to lead a very dissolute life. He actually married the prostitute, and they set up home, and they had children and everything. Then, of course, when the time came for his to leave the body, he was very afraid. He saw these Yamadutas coming. Yamadutas. Very scary, nasty looking. And so in his distress, he called out his son, Narayan. Oh, Narayan, 2-year-old son. He wasn't at all thinking of the Lord, Narayan, just calling his son, Narayan, Narayan. But Narayan, Lord Narayan, oh, he's calling my name. That was considered Nam Abbas. It wasn't Shuddhanam, the pure name. He's not meaning Lord Narayan, but it was offenseless. It's one of the 4 kinds of Nam Abbas, or reflections of Shuddhanam, is to chant meaning something else, like going Nitai Goranga, right? Learning the Mridanga. Another one is Hasya, saying comically, "Oh, look, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna." Yeah? So it's not offensive chanting, but it's not pure chanting, of course. Or when we wake up in the morning, we may, without thinking, just Hare Krishna, like this, So these are all forms of Namabhas. So in this way, the Vishnu Dutas came, and there was a big discussion then between the Vishnu Dutas and Yamadutas. And the Yamadutas couldn't understand. They said, "We've been sent by our master, Yama, a very sinful man, done very sinful acts, and we have to take him for judgment." They said, "No, you don't understand." And they explained, there was some discussion. That's in the 6th canto, Bhagavatam, very nice. But Srila Guru Maharaj, he did give a qualifier to that, which was that his Nama Bas, which he said, which gave him then liberation, not immediately, but he didn't die at that point, and he continued to live, and he became again pious, and eventually went to the Himalayas and was taken up on the Vaikuntha ship and so on. But Guru Maharaj said that it was because it was connected with his previous Sukriti in previous life, like I mentioned, that it then had the effect of as what happened, So it may not be in every case that that's the case, but just to show the power of the holy name. And you can read all about the holy name in the Search Sri Krishna book. I think it's there's 2 or 3 chapters there about the glories of the name, and a long description from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sharanagati about the effects of chanting the name and so on. So that's the Nam Tattva. Then Guru Tattva, we know that the Gurudev is non-different, considered non-different from the Lord. And again, there's many references to that, but just one is here from the Gavashtikam of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. You know the verse, Shakshad Haritvena Samasta Shastre Uktastata Bhavyata Eva Sadbhi Kintu Prabho Jo Priya Eva Tasya Bande Guru Sri Charanarvindam. So Shakshad Hari is non-different. I worship the lotus feet of the Divine Master, who is the simultaneously, inconceivably, distinct and non-distinct, manifest embodiment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All the scriptures sing the glories of his being the direct, non-different form of the Supreme Lord Sri Hari, and the pure saints concede this, yet he is the most beloved of the Lord. So that's a good, really, expression of the thing. And also considered the external manifestation of Chaitaguru or Paramatma. There may be a very subtle distinction between Chaitaguru and Paramatma. We can't go into that now. But one time, Srila Gurudev was in Holland, I remember. He was giving a talk, and he was saying like that. Normally say we understand them as one and the same. But Chaitaguru means the inspiration we get from the heart, right? But it's coming from some higher realm, Paramatma, but maybe some time lapse or gap or something. I didn't have a chance to ask him about that directly, but so as the super soul, he's like Chaitaguru, the guru in the heart generally, and externally is the Mahant Guru, the guru who instructs. And obviously that's then connecting with Nam Tattva, you know, because the pure name is received through the channel of the guru in that way. If he's non-different, simultaneously non-different form of the Lord, then the name is received, must be received that way, through the pure line, pure lineage, and so on. And then the other two we mentioned, Dham Tattva, you know, that's like the holy Dham, which is another name for Dham is a tirth, and tirth, one of the meanings is a crossing place, like in a river. When the river goes very shallow and there's a bit, maybe they put some cement or something, and then you can actually drive across, or even walk across. So tirtha means a place where the veil between this world and the other world is very thin, like the dhams we know, Navadip Dham, Vrindavan Dham, Puri Dham. And so they're considered non-different from the spiritual Dham. So someone may say, well, yeah, well, if we go to Vrindavan in India now, today, it's not even like it's apparently to our eyes, it's not like it's described even in Krishna book. You know, the 12 forests, there's even not much forest, few trees and bushes and so many hogs and dogs and, you know, etc. But as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, he's praying to Maya Devi, please remove your covering so that I can see and experience the real Dham, which is there. And then there's, again, another inconceivable oneness and different situation between Goloka Dham and Gokul Dham. So Gokul Dham is Vrindavan Dham in the material world, in the different universes, where Krishna descends to do his pastimes, and the Goloka Dham in the Goloka Vrindavan, the spiritual sky. And that is a very interesting subject, but again, we haven't got time to go into that. But if Jiva Goswami's commentary on Brahma Samhita, he mentions that, and he gets very esoteric. He says, actually, in one sense, Gokul is more than Golok. I mean, how is that even possible, right? We can only think maybe because it's more immediate to us. You know, Krishna actually came 5,000 years ago, did his pastimes, you know. you'd have to read that in more depth. And the fourth one, of course, is Shiva Tattva, which we have some pictures here. These were latecomers to the program. And that's one, this is Shiva sort of blessing position, and there's other ones of his in meditation. This with the Holy Family, Ganesha, Lord Ganesha, Nandi, his carrier, and there's Murugan, as they say in the South India, or Kartikeya. And so Shiva Tattva, again, is very distinct and non-distinct form of the Lord. So that can be seen in different ways. An example is there to help us understand it, like milk and yogurt. I sometimes have to explain this to people because, you know, in South India, they worship Lord Shiva as Supreme Being. Absolutely, you know. I mean, he's so powerful and so high and so far above us. For all intents and purposes, he's the Supreme Being, could be, as far as we're concerned, right? But actually, he's the Lord of the material world because he's Prakriti, or Parvati Devi, called Parvati because she's daughter of Parvat, the Himalayas. And as his Shakti, she's the material energy, okay? So he's connected with the material energy, let's say the downside. Whereas Lord Vishnu, Narayan, is no connection. He's transcendentally, completely transcendently situated. Lord Shiva is transcendently situated, but he has that connection. So the example like the milk and the yogurt, so milk is the original, of course. Then if you add some element, some acid or lemon or some citrus, becomes to yogurt. So you could say the yogurt comes from the milk, but at the same time, milk and yogurt, they're different but the same. Same but different. But the thing is, once the milk's been transformed into yogurt, it's not going back to be milk. So it's going this way, not that way. Understand? So, a very nice example, very, very clear. And the relation of Lord Shiva with Lord Vishnu is very special as well. That from Brahma Samhita we learn about in the creation of the material world. And one time Guru Maharaj said, or Srila Gurudev, I mean, he said this, I'm not saying this to be rude, but he himself said this, that he was talking with Guru Maharaj and he was asking about this aspect, about the manifestations, how the jivas come into the material world. And then Srila Maharaj said, oh, you haven't read Brahma Samhita? And maybe you read, or it's there, but you have to be very carefully look at it to understand it. So Lord Mahavishnu, you know, is lying in the causal ocean. I have a picture of that. I think the very first one was the title. Yeah, that one. Yeah, see. So you see how the universe is emanating from the pores of his body, and they're all floating, bobbing around there in the causal ocean. So then, for the purpose of creation, Lord Mahavishnu glances over Maya, the material energy. But at that point, the material energy is not fully formed. It's in a primal stage, like it's not manifested into sattva, rajas, tamas, or anything. It's called pradhan. It's like a mass. So he glances over the material energy. The glance of Mahavishnu takes the form of Sadashiva, the lingam. And through the lingam, the jiva souls are injected into the womb of Maya, into the pradhan. So that is to say then, there's that connection, because if Sadashiva is manifested from the glance of Mahavishnu, the glance is the glance of a person. Is it them or is it different from them? Right? If I glance over something, like people, you have the expression, if I cast my eye over something, so then, not literally, of course, take out the eye. No, you know, means, so the glance, of course, is non-different from the person. It's coming from the person. the same time, there's some difference, you know. So very intimate connection. That's why Advaita Charya is called Mahavishnu Jagat Karta. Is a manifestation of Mahavishnu, actually.
Repeat that, what you just said, the name.
Mahavishnu Jagat Karta means the creator of the Jagat, or the origin of the material universes. So then so this is oneness and difference, the Jiva soul and the Lord, Nam Tattva, Jiva Tattva, Guru Tattva, Dham Tattva, Shiva Tattva, those four. Then we come to within the Lord himself. How is that oneness and difference? So then we have the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, Vedanti Tattva Vidas Tattvam Yad Jnanam Advayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan Iti Shabdite. Those who are knows of the truth describe this non-dual substance, Advaya Gyan, in three ways: Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. So all is God, you can say, all is the Lord. That's Srimad Bhagavatam 1, first canto, second chapter, 11th verse. And we know Srila Prabhupada, he gave many lovely ways of explaining about this idea of their relation between them. One, the Brahman is the all-expansive form of the Lord, but formless. Then Paramatma is the localized representation of the Lord, sometimes called all-permeating, within every jiva soul, within every atom. And Bhagavan is the origin, the source, the Krishna, or the Swayam Bhagavan, the Samam Bonam. But Brahman is also God, Paramatma is also God, Bhagavan, God. So, you know, they give many different examples, but the common one is like the sun. So sunshine, sun planet, sun God. Are they the same or are they different? Obviously, there's an aspect of oneness, but there's also difference. For example, I may be enjoying the sunshine, not this evening, but the other day, and hopefully in future in this room. But if the sun is in this room, I'm fried to a crisp in a nanosecond. So obviously, the difference, right? But the sunlight emanates from the sun and is in that way non-different from the sun. The sunlight, and then sun planet is like Paramatma, then sun God is like Bhagavan. So there's another example, a very nice example, like the man went down to the station to wait for the train. So when he saw the train coming, the first thing he saw was the light on the front, right? Like a blazing light. So he ran back to the village. He said, "It's a light, it's a light," to the people. Oh, okay. But he didn't go any further. He just stayed in the village. The second man, he thought, let's see what's going on. He stayed a bit longer, and he saw behind the light is the form, there's a train. And he said, it's a light and it has a form. So he was more, you can say he was more educated, or more, he had a greater knowledge of the nature of the thing than the first man. And the third man, he stayed the longest. He saw the light, he saw the train, and then he sort of wondered what's going on. And the train came into the station, and many people getting in, getting out, so many things happening. He said it's not just a light and just a form, it has activity. There's a whole ecosystem there going on, you know, within that. Chit Vilas, we call it. Or, yeah. So, another example, they say, like, I think it's Ramanuja's example. If you see a green bird fly into a green tree, and you say, oh, the bird's disappeared into the tree, or become the tree, non-different. It looks like that from a distance. That if the jiva soul gets mukti, liberation, it was going into the light, merges in the light. But actually inside the light, many things are happening. If you go up very close to the tree, you'll see, no, there's many families, birds, they've got their families, they're going in, out, doing many things. There's a whole ecosystem there. It's not static. Just like it looks like a green cloud in the distance. Yeah. So these kind of examples are there, you know, to help us understand. And so that's even within, let's say, the Lord himself, different aspects, as different and non-different. And then going back to the original point about the Lord and his energies, Shakti and Shaktiman, I'm just going to mention a little bit about this discussion in the Ramananda Samvad, because it was very, very dear to Srila Maharaj. And of course, you can understand why, because he was such a deep thinker, you know, that the conception that's given there, particularly at the end, between Ramananda Roy and Mahaprabhu, is so deep and special and non-understandable by ordinary intellect and so on. As when Achyutananda Swami asked to Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada, when he came out of the room where he was talking with Srila Sridhar Maharaj, they gave a room for Sridhar Maharaj when he came to open Chandrodaya Mandir, his guest of honor, come and, you know, cut the ribbon and so on, you know. And they were walking down the stairs, and Achyutananda said, Prabhupada, what did you discuss with Sridhar Maharaj? And he shook his head. He said, Sridhar Maharaj has such high realizations. If I tell you, you will faint. Yeah, so that's a faintable thing, you know. But I just want to mention it because this is about the relation of Shakti and Shaktiman within the Lord himself, Radha Krishna. So the verse, it's on Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think I've did tell you that, but in Adi Lila, did you get that? Radha Krishna, Pranay, Vikritir, Hladini Shakti Rasmat, Ekatmanav, Atman, Bhuvi Deha Bede Katoto Chaitanakam, Prakatam, Aduna, Tadvayam Atman, Radha Bhava Duti, Suvalitam, Nomi Krishna Swarupam. And got the translation here. Translation. Pardon?
Do you know the verse number?
Yeah, it's Adi Lila chapter 4, verse 55, which says, the loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So Mahaprabhu's experience, he's Krishna himself, but he's hidden himself or disguised himself, completely hidden and disguised himself in the bhava of Radharani, the mood of Radharani in loving service to Krishna. And the reasons for that are given in the Adi Lila, confidential reasons for the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chapter 4, to experience the love which she feels in his association and what she sees in him that attracts her so much, but as Krishna, from perspective of Krishna, how to experience that. So he has to take her bhav and kanti, as it's called, her mood and her color, to experience that. So so before we even talk about anything about that this subject, but I should first, this verse here, again, you have this Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 465, a bit further on. Yes, to be very, very clear, lust and love are not the same thing. Looking similar, but different. Srila Guru Maharaj expressed it, distant similarity, categorical difference. So the verse here says from verse 164, Kam prem, Tonhokor vibhina lokhan, lo arahema joiche swarupe vilakhan. Lust and love have different characteristics, just as iron and gold have different natures. Here, both may be metals, but qualities very different, iron and gold. And then this verse, Atmendriya priti vancha taribali kam, Krishnendriya priti icha dhari prema nam. The desire to gratify one's own senses is calm, lust. But the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is prema, love. So, don't be bewildered by these Bollywood movies. Prem, they always think prem, don't they? Talking about the love, mundane love. And this is here. I'm just going to read a little bit of the purport. Swami Maharaj makes it very, very clear that in the material world, the sexual love is the deepest, cause of bondage. But all aspects of local interest, separate interest from Krishna, are manifestations of that in different degrees. Self, family, country, and so on. So he says here, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita asserts with authority that sexual love is a matter of personal sense enjoyment. All the regulative principles in the Vedas pertaining to desires for popularity, fatherhood, wealth, and so on are different phases of sense gratification. Funny that one time Srila Prabhupada went to a dinner at an Indian gentleman's house, and how they like to show their house to him and their family members, and so the family members were coming out one by one. Oh, this is my eldest son, Sunil, and yes, Hare Krishna Swamiji, yes, and this is my second son, third son, daughters. And then everybody went out, and then he was alone with the disciples. And Prabhupada turned and said, "This is my sex life." Yeah, he's vaunting that, actually, saying how very potent I am in this way. Acts of sense gratification may be performed under the cover of public welfare, nationalism, religion, altruism, ethical codes, biblical codes, health directives, fruitive action, bashfulness, tolerance, personal comfort, liberation from material bondage, progress, family affection, or fear of social ostracism or legal punishment. But all of these categories are different subdivisions of one substance, sense gratification. The purport to verse 165, chapter 4. All such good acts are performed basically for one's own sense gratification, for no one can sacrifice his personal interest while discharging these much advertised moral and religious principles. But above this is a transcendental stage in which one feels himself to be only an eternal servitor of Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead. All acts performed in this sense of servitude are called pure love of God, because they are performed for the absolute sense gratification of Sri Krishna. However, any act performed for the purpose of enjoying its fruits or results is an act of sense gratification. Such actions are visible sometimes in gross and sometimes in subtle forms. So, obviously there's gross sense gratification, but there's also subtle forms. As Prabhupada is hovering on the mental plane, going to art galleries, enjoying the paintings, the music, all these things.
Let me just pause one
Yes.
minute. The translator's just catching up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, so yes, this Ramananda Samvad, and of course, Srila Maharaj, he was sent actually to the place where this discourse took place in Godavari, by the Godavari River in Andhra Pradesh, and he established a small temple there, and also the padukas, the footprints of Mahaprabhu. You know, they take a cast and then they make casts from the cast and the cast and the cast in different places. So that was very dear to him. And not just that, it really, the entire theology of Krishna consciousness is in that conversation. Okay, so how it happened, Mahaprabhu, he had met Ramananda Rai once before, just briefly, and he was very astonished and very impressed with his, his devotion and his nature. And later on, a devotee of Mahaprabhu was asking him some questions, and he said, "Oh, go and ask Ramananda Rai. He's the man. He will tell you everything." So this devotee, he went down there to AP and met with Ramananda Rai, but when he went there, he was busy doing some service, and he found out that the service he was doing was teaching the young girls their dancing techniques. They're called Devadasis, and at least in those days, I don't know about nowadays, but they used to dance for the pleasure of Jagannath, and so that means, as a sort of ballet instructor, obviously he's got to hold their bodies in different ways, very intimate contact. So this devotee had some doubt, and he came back to Mahaprabhu and said, "Oh, he's doing like that." He said, "No, no, he's not like that. You don't understand who he is. He's a completely transcendental man, a Vaikuntha man." See? So later on, Mahaprabhu had the opportunity, when he had more time, and he went to meet him there. And that time, Ramananda Rai came there. Just, he was a government minister. So obviously he would have had a high position and wealth, a worldly man externally, you will say, and servants and so on. But he came to meet with Mahaprabhu on the banks of the Godavari River, dressed in very simple cloth, very humbly. And they sat together. And the first thing Mahaprabhu asked him, so you have this conversation between them is very fascinating, because they're kind of testing each other, you might say. Yeah. Yeah, when they first met, he said Mahaprabhu began their conversation by asking Ramananda, this is from Revealed Truth, page 374, very simple question, Padashlo Sadyera Nirnoy. Please recite a verse that reveals the ultimate goal of our lives. Simple question. So Ramananda, first of all, he was very, very shy. Why Mahaprabhu asked me like this? He knows everything. He's a very scholarly Nimai Pandit, come from Navadip. He knows, and he said, "I know you. No, I cannot speak on this." He was a bit reluctant at first. Mahaprabhu was pressing him. No, no, you tell something. Finally, Ramananda said, "Then I think I'm like a bank vault, and you have deposited some of your wealth with me, and now you've come to withdraw it. So I have no choice. I have to say something about that." So then he replied with a verse, which was, of course, about Varnashram Dharma. By doing one's duties according to one's socio-physical, psychophysical nature, as according to Varnashram system, that way, and offering the fruits to the Lord. This is he gave this as a verse for the goal of our lives. Oh, we're not at all satisfied with that. He said, "Eho bhaya age kaha." This is external, go deeper. So then there was a long train of questions and answers. where he's asking something more, say something more, and Ramananda is telling, gradually going through karma, to jnana, to bhakti, different phases of bhakti, karma mishra, bhakti mixed with desire for the fruits, jnana mishra, bhakti mixed with desire for elevation, spiritual elevation. And they say Lord Brahma is the embodiment of the karma mishra bhakti. Lord Shiva is the embodiment of jnana mishra bhakti. And then Shuddha bhakti. And when he came to the verse, even he said, he mentioned from Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dhammam Purityāja, Mam Ekam Charanam Vrajam. Maharaj said, yeah, that's also external, go deeper. And then he said another verse, when he said, Jnana Prayasham Udapasya Namanteva, that verse, spoken by Lord Brahma, his realization that throwing away all knowledge, all ideas about trying to get knowledge of the Absolute, or even realization of the Absolute, just leave all that and surrender. Mahaprabhu said, yes, this is good now. We're getting somewhere. This is starting. But this is only the beginning. Say more. So then Ramananda continued. He said about Bhakti in its different phases, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya. Then he came to Madhurya Rasa. The thing was that Ramananda, he didn't want to go, he knew many things, and this last verse, which you'll see, is very fantastic, but in front of Mahaprabhu, who's a young sannyasi, he didn't want to immediately say those things about the intimate relation of Radha and Krishna. So that's why he was hesitant. But Mahaprabhu was pushing him, no, go more, say more, say more. So he got to the point, as they were talking, they're becoming more and more comfortable with each other, It's like when you're talking with someone, you see how you can push the boundaries a little bit, a bit more like this. So then finally he gave some verses saying about Radharani's service to Krishna is the highest service, and that she's the highest servitor. Iharmade Radhar Prem Sadya Shiromani. This is the Sadhya means the end, result, the goal. Shiromani, the perfection. Perfection of the goal of life is Iharmade Radha Prem. Real service to Krishna is given by Radharani, and Radharani's Prem, which is the greatest amongst all the gopis, is the topmost perfection. So then he gave many other verses in that regard, and Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. Because, that's the reason he'd come in the world. Externally, to give Harinam as the Yuga Dharma for everybody, but internally, as we mentioned before, to experience the mood of Radharani in service to himself. So now it's touching on that. He's very happy, ecstatically happy. But then he said, Mahaprabhu, yes, what you're describing is supreme, but is there anything more? Then Ramananda said, I cannot conceive that anyone could ask about anything more than this. I cannot find any verses from the scriptures that go beyond this, but if you like, you can hear something from me that may be satisfying to you. His own composition. And then he cited his own verse, Pahilei rag nayana bhangi bhela, anudina bodhol obodi nagela, no so ramana nahama ramani, duhu mana manubhav peshala jani. That's the reference to that is Madhya Lila. This whole conversation is chapter 8 of Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that was verse 193. So the meaning of this verse is very extraordinary, which Srila Gurudev, he said this is extreme expression, but the meaning of the verse is essentially Radharani, he's saying it from the mouth of Radharani, that she's saying, I met Krishna, Krishna met me, and we were immediately attracted to each other. And that attraction has increased more and more, so much to the extent that we have, I want to say, like, as if become one. Like lover and beloved become one. But that oneness is not an ontological oneness, like, soul becoming one with God, no difference. Then only God remains. No, both sides, Shakti and Shaktiman, remain. But in their union, there's like that kind of oneness where they don't know, they can't differentiate one from the other. She actually says in the verse, according to Ramanand, Naso Ramana, Nahama Ramani. I can't understand. Am I woman, he's man, or is he man, is he woman, I man? Like that.
Oneness, but there's difference as well.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's the point. And the point here is that then the devotee asked to Srila Gurudev at that point, is this like merging? Like, and he said, no. There's many things inside that. But the Mayavadis will say, just see. That's what we're doing. That's what we're after. That complete oneness. But no, it's not like that.
When he says Prabhupada, says that, oneness between Radha Krishna, it means that
Wait, could you
Krishna becomes very
put because we need no one here online?
Okay.
Oneness, it means also that a devotee becomes everything for the Lord, and the Lord at the same time reciprocates in the same way. That Prabhupada gives this explanation, the Gita,
Very nice.
about oneness.
Yes.
I don't know if that.
Yeah, that's it. Again, that's another aspect, isn't it? Yeah, of it. But then hearing that verse, then Mahaprabhu, he couldn't hide himself anymore, and he manifested inside Radha Krishna form, which Ramananda had darshan. We wouldn't say saw that with the physical eye or anything. He had that darshan, but he was a bit confused. He couldn't quite believe it. What am I seeing in this sannyasi? And what am I seeing? It is your form, but I cannot believe it. At first I saw you as a sannyasi, a glorious sannyasi, no doubt. But now I'm not seeing you as only a sannyasi. Inside you I'm seeing Krishna himself, and he appears to have the heart of Radharani and to be covered by her halo. What is this? Ramanand, darshan. So then, seeing him like that, Mahaprabhu sort of, he tried to say, oh, no. He's saying, oh, well, it's not very surprising. You're a devotee and a great devotee, so you will see Krishna everywhere, in everything, in every atom. What to speak of every person? So, of course, you will see Krishna in me, like that way. And Ramana said, no, don't cheat me. Not like that. He said, I understand who you are. You cannot hide your identity from me. Tell me the truth. You've come here to see me and show me your form. Why are you now hiding yourself? Then Mahaprabhu said, Bhakti bale para tumi brahmanda shodite. You know everything. What can I say? The power of your devotion can purify the whole universe. You are my very exclusive devotee, and I cannot hide myself in front of you. Really, I am what you are seeing. Then he showed like this, Rasaraj and Mahabhav. Krishna's Rasaraj, right? The king of Rasa, emporium of all Rasa, and Mahabhav Radharani is the one who can, through her service, is tasting and experiencing that to the maximum. Mahabhav means that. It's the highest stage of prema. Prema, love of God, has different stages, sneha, rag, anurag, and so on, up to Mahabhav. But it's said that Radharani is the only one who possesses Mahabhav like that. So then, of course, it was too much. He fainted, fell on the ground, he fainted, and then Mahaprabhu touched him and he came back to his senses. But again, now he's seeing again Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi. So then finally, the thing was that Mahaprabhu said to him, Ami ek batul, tumi dvitiya batul. Batul is like pagal.
Which verse is that?
It's 291. Yeah, Majlila 8291. Ateva tomayamai hai samatul. I'm crazy, and you're also crazy. No one else has seen this divine form of mine as Radha Krishna combined, but it is my own true form. Do not tell others that you've seen this form. Keep what you've seen hidden in your heart. Okay, so these are very confidential things we're sharing here because we're in the class. Okay, but this whole conversation and what happened in it, then he was so happy with that Mahaprabhu that when he met Rupa Goswami later, in his teachings to Rupa Goswami, which is in Chaitanya Charitamrita also, he gave expression to this through those teachings. And through that, Rupa Goswami became our Sampradaya Acharya. Our Sampradaya is called the Rupa Nuga Sampradaya, specifically, the followers of Sri Rupa, who received the teachings from Mahaprabhu. And that was Mahaprabhu's choice of Rupa Goswami. There were many devotees, very, very qualified. Of course, Sanatana Goswami, Prakashananda, what's his name? He wrote the book Radha Rasa Shuddhanidhi. No, that was the Mayavadi one who got converted. Oh, so many devotees, yeah. But he selected Rupa Goswami. So we talk about, we are the Rupa Nugas, and then we talk about the Rupa Nuga Dhara, or the current, coming from Rupa Goswami. It's a very specific thing, like here, a very special thing, and who can carry that current must be very, very qualified, not like myself, like Srila Sridhar Maharaj, as all the devotees recognized, he was given the position of the guardian of devotion. Bhakti Rakak means guardian of devotion, but Sridhar Maharaj, he chuckled, he said, but I think gatekeeper means who will come in and who won't come in. I can say that. So we just, begging his mercy, very small people. Sometimes he would talk about these things, a little bit, but then he would say, big talk from the mean mouth. And what can I say? But it's good to know what is the ideal, the highest ideal above our heads. But it's above our heads, and something very special, and something, also why specifically we worship Mahaprabhu, as we have Mahaprabhu and same level Radha Krishna in our altar. So it's not like then Mahaprabhu is a sub or lower incarnation or something. He is Radha Krishna combined directly. And in his book, Jagadananda Pandit, what's his book called again? Prem Vilas, is it? Prema Vivata. The whole first introduction or chapter, he's continually saying in many verses, do not think that Mahaprabhu is, one of the incarnations of Krishna. Like so many incarnations, Leela avatars, Purusha avatars, so many categories of avatars. He's the summum bonum. In Goloka Dham, two divisions, Navadvip and Vrindavan. Vrindavan is Madhurya Leela, Krishna enjoying with his group, within their group, and Audarya Leela, enjoying and throwing that out, giving that out to everybody. So then, like Sridhar Maharaj said, that Mahaprabhu is dancing and chanting, right? His dancing is his own experience of Radha Prem, and his dancing is like something is dancing, it's spinning out, isn't it? In all directions. The golden volcano of divine love, uncontrollably coming out. So that's why Mahaprabhu is very special. We are approaching service, Radha Krishna Seva, through Mahaprabhu always. And so we are just, as Srila Guru Maharaj always said, when devotees would ask him in general, what service we can do, he said, serve the devotees, the mutt and mission, and the deities. That's what we can do in different forms. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. It's 5 minutes.
Maybe someone has a question here? Anyone?
Just a quick one. Is what yuga are we in right now?
In Kali Yuga, supposedly. Kali Yuga, yeah. 4. So each yuga is 1/4 less time in years than the previous. So Satya Yuga is the longest, and Treta Yuga 1/4 less than Dwapara Yuga, and then Kali Yuga is the shortest, 432,000 years supposedly, and we've come in 5,000 years or so. But they're rotating eternally in the material worlds. So many material worlds, not just one. Many universes, many planets. So these are huge sort of kalpas of time. So the four yugas together, how many millions or billions of years is that? So one of those Mahayugas, there's 71 Mahayugas in every day of Brahma, the Creator God. Every day, not his life, every day. And he lives 100 years. Can't really conceive of that. And the life of Brahma, his life, so long as it is nothing in eternity. It's said that Brahmas are like appearing and disappearing, like bubbles in the ocean. So our life is so short, like what, 70 years and 100 years.
We have another question.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. As you earlier you have mentioned that if the Jiva soul is originally with Krishna, then how did it come desire separation from Krishna and to enter the material world?
Yes, a very good question. And this has been covered many places. Essentially, yes. Question is, how or why did the Jiva soul deviate from Krishna consciousness if the soul was originally with Krishna? Well, when we say the soul was originally with Krishna, it means in the Tatastha Shakti, the marginal energy of Krishna, which is composed of souls, many living souls. But in the Tatastha Shakti, they are in a dormant state, like dormant, like as if sleeping, So they are there, they are individuals, but somehow or other, when they come into consciousness, by some things happen, other things, then they can go either way, up to the Parashakti or down to the Maya Shakti. And obviously we've come down to the Maya Shakti, unfortunately. And that is by our free will, our very small free will. But because our free will is very tiny and weak, we can easily be influenced. That's the problem. And therefore, somehow or other, we came under the influence of Maya. Obviously, we must have looked towards the side of Maya, the downside. Maybe initially out of curiosity. Like if you look at someone doing something, smoke, for example, you never smoked a cigarette, but you see someone smoking or vaping, let's say vaping, right? And first there's curiosity. You're not hooked or anything. You're separate, independent. But there's curiosity there, and that draws you towards it. And then when you take the puff, then it's got you like that. So gradually, it's a gradual process, how the soul has come under the influence of the Maya. But why a particular soul, any particular soul, chooses one side or the other side, this is the question. And that is inconceivable. Even Sridhar Maharaj, he just said it's inconceivable. Why one soul will choose one way, other soul will choose other way. If supposedly they have no previous experience. If the soul had had previous experience, oh, I went into Maya, that was horrible, so I won't do that again. No, they're coming from that stage and making the decision then. That's free will, it's free choice. But we're told, mostly the souls are going up and few souls are going down. So all the material universes all together, I mean, the whole material existence is very, very tiny as compared to the spiritual existence. Yeah. So when the soul goes back to Krishna, into Nitya Seva and Nitya Lila, they don't come back. They still have independence, of course, but they're so much wrapped in the service of Krishna, they don't make that choice. That's all we can say. And a soul who is coming from this side, conditioned soul, if a conditioned soul will finally get liberated and go to Krishna Seva, and enter into Nitya Lila, then they are becoming part of the Parashakti then, Divya Shakti. They're not like ordinary Jiva soul as such then. They're entering the Nitya Lila and then they're equal to everybody who's there. So it's not like the material conception where the liberated soul's there serving Krishna. Say, oh, here comes this new soul. You better watch out. They might have some funny ideas coming from the material world, or they might, they might influence us, or, so we keep them under surveillance, No, because they're coming there. They've already got the passport, the visa. They've been granted entrance. They're fully surrendered soul. Absolutely. 100%, So in the material world, we're all trying to surrender and trying to serve different degrees, 10%, 20%, 50%, 95% maybe, etc. And when, oh, when will that day come when we can go back to Krishna? We don't know, but that will be causing us to feel hankering, in separation, to go there. So all the acharyas in their songs, their bhajans, they're saying like that. When will that day be mine? When I can, be with Krishna then. And
Can I ask a quick question?
yeah, but just quickly say, but we're not searching for liberation. That's the big difference. Many spiritual missions and people, they want mukti. They want freedom from suffering. But no, our goal is to go to serve and satisfy Krishna, like we were saying. So the higher devotees, they don't pray to Krishna for liberation or anything. They say, just let me serve you. Please give me a little bit of service. If it's even in hell, if I have your seva, that's fine. And if you give me the finest place in the heavenly planets and paradise and not seva, I don't want it. So the seva is the thing, the real thing. That's what it's about, all about.